If you treat safety compliance as a flexible set of corporate guidelines, you are setting your facility up for a catastrophic failure. Across the industry, there is a pervasive and often fatal delusion at the executive level: the belief that occupational health and safety record keeping is a secondary, deferrable administrative task, a chore for human resources to get to eventually. The legal reality is much harsher. Treating precise worker data as passive paperwork strips the company of its legal defenses. When an incident occurs, a lack of documentation instantly exposes the entire establishment to severe liability. This is exactly why Chapter 8, Section 33 of the OSHA and Working Conditions Code of 2020 exists. It removes management's discretion and establishes an absolute, uncompromising statutory baseline for operational legality. This text is a statutory mandate. It does not ask for an employer's best effort, and it cannot be waived by internal policy. It is an explicit order from the government dictating exactly what must be recorded, how it must be recorded, and when. For the safety professional, Section 33 is an offensive weapon. It is the exact legal text you use to corner your board and force them to allocate the necessary resources for compliance. The mandate requires the immediate construction of 4 strict pillars: accurate daily registers, public workplace notices, detailed wage slips, and systematic returns filed to the state. Failing to leverage this specific text to secure executive buy-in means that when the inevitable audit occurs, the safety officer will stand alone, personally exposed to the legal fallout. We begin with the core data engine, Section 33, Clause A. The code explicitly dictates that the employer, and only the employer, shall maintain a register of worker particulars. Crucially, the text specifies this register can be maintained electronically or otherwise. By explicitly writing digital adoption into the statute, the government eliminates any executive excuse for relying on slow, outdated manual tracking. This register must track highly specific data points. Clause 1 demands an ongoing record of the precise work performed by every employee. Without defining what a worker does, it is impossible to evaluate exposure limits, required protective equipment, or training deficits. This is the baseline metric. From there, Clauses 2 and 3 require tracking the exact number of hours constituting a normal working day, alongside the mandatory allowance for 1 day of rest in 7. Inspectors look directly at these columns to identify systemic labor exploitation and physiological burnout. Next, Clause 4 legally requires the tracking of the exact wages paid and receipts given in return. Together, these 4 specific data points form the absolute economic and physiological baseline of a legal operation. If your internal systems are missing any of them, your facility is non-compliant the moment an inspector steps on the floor. Beyond baseline hours and wages, the register must capture real-time operational stress. Clause 5 demands the strict monitoring of leave, overall attendance, and overtime work. Auditors treat sudden spikes in overtime as leading indicators of an elevated probability of safety failures. The most critical mandate within Clause 5 is the explicit requirement to log all dangerous occurrences. If management omits a near miss from this register, they commit statutory fraud. That omission destroys the employer's credibility and defense if a case goes to court. Finally, Clause 6 mandates the strict, isolated tracking of adolescent workers, imposing rigorous visibility on a highly regulated demographic. If a safety professional fails to maintain immediate visibility on these high-risk categories, they are inviting disaster. Missing this specific data is the fastest route to a complete operational shutdown during an unannounced inspection. Maintaining a pristine internal database is only half the legal requirement. Section 33, Clause B, forces that data out of the back office, mandating outward-facing operational transparency. The law explicitly requires the employer to display notices at the workplace in the exact manner and form prescribed by the government. The strategic purpose of this clause is straightforward. It legally prevents management from hiding statutory rights and safety obligations from the workforce on the floor. That transparency extends directly to the individual. Under Clause C, the employer must issue individual wage slips to every worker. The code explicitly authorizes these wage slips to be issued in electronic forms. This guarantees a permanent, time-stamped digital paper trail in the hands of the employees themselves. The internal register establishes the facts, but the notices and wage slips ensure those facts are checked. The law demands this public display and individual documentation to verify the integrity of the employer's private data. All of this internal data collection and public verification culminates in the final statutory mechanism of Chapter 8, Clause D. This clause directs the data to the inspector-cum-facilitator. They are the ultimate statutory authority for the code and the primary threat vector for any non-compliant facility. Clause D legally obligates the employer to file such returns, electronically or otherwise, to this inspector during strictly prescribed periods. This continuous pipeline acts as an unblinking, periodic audit. It forces the facility to repeatedly declare its operational integrity to the state. If an inspector finds discrepancies between the internal register, the electronic wage slips issued to workers, and the external returns filed to the government, it will immediately trigger a severe enforcement action. Clause D ensures that the previous three pillars cannot be treated as internal administrative paperwork, because the moment those returns are filed, they become active, binding legal testimony submitted directly to the government. Section 33 establishes a complete interlocking architecture: accurate registers, transparent notices, individual wage slips, and systematic state returns, working together as a single, unified system. These four mandates form a defensive perimeter, protecting the business from legal destruction. Crucially, clauses A, C, and D provide a tactical advantage: the explicit allowance to handle this electronically. This dismantles executive arguments of administrative burden. The law demands you automate. Take this exact statutory breakdown to your operations board. Put Section 33 in front of them and demand the resources necessary to implement these systems immediately. Section 33 constitutes a facility's statutory license to operate. Execute every clause without exception.